Man, being out of Arkansas, being in my own bed, I was comfortable considering I just had a very uncomfortable talk with the coaching staff back in Arkansas. Let me take you back so you all can understand how we got to this point. I had to be honest with them and let them know that I wasn't happy with the way the season ended, especially considering I spent most of my time on that team on the sideline watching. The coach reminded me that although I was proving every day that my conditioning wasn't an issue and I pulled off some clutch performances, he just wasn't too sure about my consistency. He promised me that if I decided to stay, he would give me a much bigger role as some of our key linemen were coming back next season and there will be a new freshman QB as the starter. He just wanted to make sure that my head was in the right place moving forward, and I can't lie, after settling down and spending some time alone to think about it, he was right. Although in my mind I felt as if I missed out on a lot of opportunities on the field, I still needed to prove that I could handle playing a full game. So at that moment, I was sold on what the coach was saying. I mean, that is until all hell broke loose over ESPN. So Coach Deion Sanders announced that he would be leaving Jackson State and he would be headed to Colorado University. Not only that, but he mentioned that he would be starting from scratch once he got there, and anyone willing to join was welcome. The transfer portal was now open. You started to see 5-star recruits leave their teams and head to play for Coach Prime. New recruits who committed to one school decommit and announced they were headed to Colorado as well. And that's how we got to this point. I'm home right now talking to my pops about what could potentially be the greatest opportunity I could ever have. And of course, my pops was all for it. Not to mention, my mom was more than happy to see me off the East Coast and moving a tad bit closer to home, although she really wanted me back in California. So here I was, back in Arkansas, talking to the coaching staff, letting them know the decision I had come to. According to my dad, I needed to speak with them like a man. No burnt bridges, he would always tell me. Shortly after that, I took to social media and made my decision. I was officially entering the transfer portal where I would be taking my talents to Colorado. Now, off top, I was enjoying the way Coach Prime was handling the new role. Everybody started off equal until they could prove that they deserved a chance to start, which boosted the competition at all the practices. This was exactly what I needed to make sure no matter what people saw on the outside, like my weight, all that mattered is how I played. And when I tell you I was taking every opportunity to run somebody over, I did just that. Not only were we playing for a spot, but we were playing for our numbers. This was the type of environment I needed to be in to help push me to the next level. Unfortunately for me though, our first game against our rivals Colorado State, I was on the sideline watching as my team went out and held the team down, destroying State with a score of 24-8. Now y'all know the old me would have been upset that I didn't get to play as much, but to my surprise, coach was giving me an opportunity to play for the next spot. I failed to mention that there was a lot of talent here, and I was nowhere close to being the starter of this team. But it was something about the system that coach had laid out that just made the journey not only fun, but worth it. Our first touch in this battle instantly got me the nod for the coaches, and I was making my way up in the rankings and in the eyes of the staff. And I kept pouring it on. I was on a mission that day, and every opportunity I got, I was treating it like I wasn't going to get another one. The next game, I didn't get to see the field, and it was against an FCS school. And here again, I'm thinking we should destroy this team, and we end up doing just that, winning 17-3. So that next game against Fresno State, it took a turn for the worse because we end up taking a tough L, losing 35-21. And I knew this was going to be my moment because that next practice, Coach Prime was shaking things up. I was about to play for second string, which meant this was an opportunity to see some playing time. With that on my mind, I went out there and I tried to give everybody who tried to tackle me CTE. I know that sounds crazy, but that was the state of mind I was in. And looking back on the film, it paid off. Nobody could touch me at that moment, even if they tried. And before I knew it, Coach was going to give me my shot. I had found my way to second string on the depth chart, and I was getting my first chance against number 16 Oregon State. Now my first snap in that black and gold, bruh. When you know it, I end up losing 4 yards on my first carry. How crazy does that look on the stats though? 1 carry for -4 yards was nuts. The next time I carried the ball was on 3rd and 3, only getting 1 yard to my name, and I was still in the whole 3 yards, which meant I had -3 yards to my name. Oh, and it gets much worse. Coach decides to put me back in, and I rush for -3 yards again. Like, bro, I'm laying on the ground like, no way this is what my career has come to. There's no way I'm going to finish my first game in Colorado with -6 rushing yards. I mean, luckily we win the game, but -6 was crazy. That next practice was personal, and coach was giving me a chance to become a starter. And I know that sounds crazy, especially coming off a -6 rushing yard performance, but this is why I'm always going to ride for Coach Prime. He saw in me what I saw in me. He believed in me even with me being 280 something. He saw the hunger and the pain in my eyes watching from the sideline, and that trumped the poor performance I had last game. And I paid him back on the field. Again, I ran everything over in my sight. The defense couldn't hold me even if the whole team was on me. Believe me, at that practice, I could have carried them all on my back. Needless to say, with the way I practiced that day, I was a solidified starter. Coach had seen enough, and he'd rather stop me now than risk me injuring someone else or even myself, because we had a lot more season left to play. And what a crazy game to get my first start in. We were facing number 23 Oregon, and if this wasn't a stage to prove I was the best, I don't know what was. That is until my first attempt, and again, it was -3 yards. But what happened next is going to blow your mind even further. Shedeur and I went out for an option play. When the D lineman rushed straight towards me, took me out, Shedeur decides to toss the ball back as if I'm still there, and we get a turnover at midfield. Oregon, of course, scores off the great field position, and I come back in. Finally, my first positive rushing experience since I've been on the field. On 4th and 2, Coach puts the ball in my hand as I get us a first down to keep the drive alive. I'm finally getting into a groove as I find a hole in the defense and run for 31 yards, leaving a kid on his back down at the 39-yard line. Just the momentum switch we needed to get this game up. 3rd and 7, Shedeur drops back to find Jimmy Horn for a nice gain, getting us down to the goal line where I'm informed I'm not getting the ball. Instead, the fullback takes us in for our first points of the game. And y'all should be proud of me, guys. I didn't complain about not getting the ball. I mean, after my first season at Arkansas State and hearing Coach Prime's talks, I knew I had to prove I deserved the ball in moments like that. And my next time touching the ball, I did just that. Finding the open parts of the field, making quick decisions with my feet got me the opportunity to see the end zone for the first time in Colorado. An explosive 52-yard run touchdown to shut the Oregon defense up. But Oregon would do the same to our defense after numerous 3-and-outs from the offense, which meant 4th quarter, we had to tee up and make sure we don't lose this game. Crazy pass across his body to me to get us a first down. And then on the next play, I fight for 8 yards to move the chains again. We were looking unstoppable as I go for 6 yards to hopefully make this a victory drive down the field, but we stall out here and Coach decides to bring out the kicking team to give us a 1-point lead. But with 18 seconds left in the game, with all our defense needing to do was bat down a floater, Bo Nix throws up what looks like a pick, but was actually a touchdown. We lose to Oregon in the most humiliating way ever. In my debut game as a starter, rushing for 140 yards with 1 touchdown. I mean, to be honest, we weren't supposed to beat Oregon. That's only if we're being honest. Yes, it would have been nice to beat them, and the entire nation would have to take notice of this team, but Coach didn't want us to make losing a habit. And I'm not sure if the rest of the team got the message, but losing was about to become a trend for us. And it started with the next game against Arizona State. When I tell you our offense was stagnant, bro, our offense couldn't move the ball at all. This would go down as one of my worst collegiate performances with only 52 yards on the ground and 33 in the air. Coach wasn't happy, and neither was I. I had to come out that next game and make sure every other team we faced felt the pain. My first touch of the game against Arizona, I sent shockwaves through the stadium after leveling a kid to get the first down. When I tell y'all I was not playing any games with these fools, I meant that. Coach calls a genius halfback option with Shedeur and Zay that get us all the way down to the red zone, and Coach was giving me the go ahead to run the next play. I put my head down, ran a man over, and I was back into the end zone. I had to put everyone on notice that we weren't slouches, and they were going to have to actually play us this game. I guess the Goofies didn't get the message the first time because they were still coming at me way too soft. Every chance I got, I put my head down and started carrying that Arizona team on my back. I was finally tapped into running with a purpose, and that purpose was simple. If you run head up with me, I was going to either hurt you, make you regret it, and make sure you never did it again. In saying all of that, we get down to the 1-yard line on 4th and 1, where I punch it into the end zone again, increasing our lead by 1 score. Although I was playing with a crazy intensity, our defense just wasn't. We come back out on the field with seconds left in the 4th, tied up, which meant we needed to make something shake right now. Shedeur finds me across the middle for a nice gain. I know some were thinking just get into field goal range, but I was thinking touchdown. Next time we put it into the air, I went off course to the open part of the field and fought for even more yards. I saw the look in Coach's eyes, and he gave me the nod like, you know what to do. too. And with 17 seconds left on 2nd and 11, I locked in, weaving in and out of the hole, stumbling, regaining my feet to score the game-winning touchdown. It took about 3 linemen to hold me up after that, but that feeling was back. This is what I was talking about, bro. Coach Prime showing me that he trusted me at that moment meant the world to me. And that was all I wanted. A coach who would give me a chance, and I took full advantage. I ended up rushing for 133 yards with 3 touchdowns and winning player of the game. Now, coming off a victory and a performance like that, you'd think I'd be in high spirits, but I was in a dark place, and I can't lie, my focus was shifted. I was just on the phone with my mom, who was in tears, telling me what had been going on back home. My dad, who had been in remission from prostate cancer for the past 3 years, had just found out at a routine checkup that there was something growing on his prostate. I was sick to my stomach hearing the news, and it didn't help that my mom was in my ear about me staying home for college, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know, maybe she was right. Maybe I needed to be home with my pops. We almost lost him once, and I would feel terrible if he was to pass away and I wasn't there to say goodbye. Good news is, our next game was at UCLA, which meant my dad would get to see me play and I could visit them afterwards considering the circumstances. But to my surprise, UCLA had a squad, and bruh, they let us know real quick. They were ranked number 18 in the country, and with my folks in the stands, I had to come out and show my pops I was really like that. I'm talking about every time I touched the ball, I was getting at least 10 yards per carry. In my mind, I'm just like, if this is the last time my pops gets to see me play IRL, I want to make sure I put on a show for him so he could be in the stands like, yeah, that's my son. We get all the way down to the 6-yard line where yet again, I'm feeling unstoppable as I score. And you already know I'm looking in the stands for my folks afterwards. Now back on the field in the third, and the score is all tied up, but I'm about to kick it in overdrive as I go for 7 yards. That next play was something special though, as I make my way to the next level, rushing that time for 22 yards, and I already have 125 on the ground at this moment. 3rd and goal, and coach calls a screenplay, which turned out to be the perfect play as I schooled in to score another touchdown. This time I had to hit my little dancey dance for the hoes, and my folks in the stands to let them know I'm really him. Now, as you can imagine, at this point in the 4th quarter, all we need to do is run the clock down. But when I get the ball and run it fall down kind of weird, coach pulls me out for the rest of that drive. Unfortunately, the 2nd string running back fumbles the ball. UCLA recovers, and now we're down by 1 point, and we need at least a field goal to salvage this game. On 4th and 2, Shedeur tries to squeeze a pass in a tight window, and that was the game. No way. We just lost by 1 point in front of my folks, especially after that performance I just put up, which was 159 yards on the ground with 1 rushing touchdown and 1 passing TD. Now, losing by 1 point was tough. Having to leave my parents to finish out the season was even tougher. Going up against number 7 Washington was about to be even tougher than that. Having a 4-4 record was starting to show. We couldn't afford to lose many more games before we wouldn't even be considered for a bowl game, and it was looking as if a bowl season was nowhere to be found. The offense couldn't get going. The defense was definitely not doing anything against this Washington offense, and things were slowly starting to crumble around us. Realization set in, especially for those looking at the schedule, that this might be a losing season for all of us who wanted to come in immediately and win something big for the school. Don't get me wrong, we had moments of greatness where we scored, but everyone just looked slow and sluggish. I almost felt like the squad had given up after our previous loss. At that moment, I didn't know if I was the only one still fighting. And with everything going on at home, I started to feel like, why am I the only one left fighting? With everything I got going on in my life, why am I the only one showing effort? After Shedeur throws a pick 6 late in the 3rd quarter to put us down 21-6, team folded, and we ended up taking another L on the season. I rushed for 126 yards and had 71 yards receiving. Back at Colorado to face off against Cal, and from this point on, I was playing for myself. If going pro was an option for me, I had to make sure every time the camera was on me, I was doing something to catch a scout's eye. Bouncing off guys, showing my agility, even with all this weight, was going to be a sure way to do it. The next play, I had murder on my mind. From the 43-yard line, coach called an option, and when I tell you any defensive player that touched me bounced off me, I meant that. I don't know how many tackles I broke or how my feet was moving so fast. All I know is I didn't stop until I heard a whistle blow, and I found myself in the end zone. From this moment, it was going to be the Get Jeremy Whitney to the NFL show, and anyone that didn't like it could get steamrolled at any time. Again, this is why I'm always going to rock with Coach Prime, because he was willing to let me go out there and rock. He saw me as a competitor and a skilled player. I was put it on for this team no matter win, lose, or draw, and he respected that. I wasn't going out there to let anyone down, not me, not my parents, and not the guys who became family. I knew I didn't have a chance at Heisman with the record we have right now, but next year, they had to know I was going to be a problem in Colorado. Late in the third, and I'm back into the end zone again celebrating with the guys. I put up a staggering 227 yards on the ground in another win. Of course, that was player of the game numbers, which I do win. Another chance to go up against a top 5 school. This time it's against USC, and the game is going exactly how you would expect it to. Already down 10, I come out and make a huge play catching a ball for a 51-yard run after catch, leaving somebody in the snow a few yards back. Talk about setting the tone as coach gives me the nod, even after the long run to go ahead and punch it in, and now we on the board. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, but Coach Prime made me feel like the man out there, and I knew as long as I kept proving him right, I will remain out there. First and goal, late in the third, coach again gives me the go ahead to put my head down and score the ball. I couldn't let him down considering almost every time we faced the top 25 school, we lost. If we took the L this time, it wouldn't be because of me. And ultimately, it was because of our defense that we lost that game. And it only got worse from here because next up, we were facing off against number 4 Utah. And the teams just kept getting tougher the deeper we got into the schedule. Teams were really practicing to go against me, and every yard I got, I had to fight for. There were no more huge breakout carries. These teams were ready for everything we threw at them. Every audible, play action. It didn't matter how many tackles I broke, who I ran over. Luckily for me, I was prepared for that. But I believe I might have been the only one. Shador, Shiloh, and Travis, we were all locked in. But as for the rest of the guys, I guess you can only take so much of a beating before you eventually see things aren't going to go your way. With this being the last game of the season for us and no bowl hope, the team laid down and took the last L of the season. Coming from the record I had in Arkansas and actually going to a bowl game there, this was a tough situation. Maybe I had made the wrong decision following the hype of Coach Prime here. But then again, he brought something out of me that I've been longing for a while now, and I'll be forever grateful to him for that, which makes me saying this all the more tougher. I had decided that it would be best to make the move back home considering my father's health was fading fast and I didn't want to miss a moment with him. Anyway, my next 2 years of football will be played in California. I'm headed back home.
Ain't no way you got your brother sick.
We were just talking in the backyard, that's all. I was at least 5 feet away from him.
You had your mask on?
But yeah, then it got hard to breathe, so I took it off.
I swear, y'all got to be the 2 dumbest people on the earth right now.
Mom.
So you thought taking your mask off would be a good idea.
I was thinking.
And that's the problem. You weren't thinking. Now your brother about to miss a game.